Hey guys, this is Brad Dyke doing my software review video, and this is not based principally on one piece of software but more of a genre, and that is something you're going to discover as you're getting your fingers wet in things like Proxmox, VMware, True NAS, and other functionalized multi-task-based operating system environments. So what I mean by that is you can add things to these environments, and the one topic we're going to talk about today is going to be the monitoring tools that exist out there for plugins or add-ins for these different environments. Synology is probably a good place to start first because the Synology OS is being re-footprinted for an Xpinology kind of approach, and that's kind of more of like an all-in-one inclusive package that has a lot of add-ons, and that's a good way to look at this at the beginning based on your skill sets. Now your skill sets, when it comes to wanting to put the kind of monitoring that you want for your environment, is driven on two principal things. First, with a piece of paper, write down what do you want to monitor. That can be network traffic, that could be grabs, that could be SNMP, that could be application or APM and services, it could be API integration, it could be services-based driven web services such as Apache and PHP and IIS and so on. And these plugins, all ideas or things you would like to monitor, put them on a piece of paper. Once you've done that, then the second part is, do you understand what you're looking at? When we do MIBs and we do inputs for like TCP traffic, IP traffic, and other network related traffic, we refer to this as infrastructure monitoring. So most of the plugins like Synology, Tanac, Buffalo, Western Digital on their OS environments will have an add-on that will let you see the telemetry of any of the add-ins or add-ons you put on the box, the NAS box you have, and allow you to see the performance metrics, access endpoints, security, and so on for those devices. Now, those are what we call internal looping monitoring keys. So if you have a Synology box and you're starting to dev into some of the plugins like Jenkins and GitHub and some other components, you can also plug into them and see how they're performing based on your system, because the one key detail about NASs and their operating systems is the fact that they don't have a lot of resources. They're built for storage. Got to remember that. And since they're built for storage, the CPU RAM is going to be focused mostly on I/O processing. But as of the past couple of years, they've gotten a little bit more robust on the processor level, not so much on the RAM, unfortunately. But you can have options if you look internally into the hardware side of your NAS solution. You may have the ability to put in cache modules. Those are small SOHO DIMMs that you can put in that will help boost the performance and give you back some of your capacity. But the key thing about monitoring is when you first document it on paper, that sets the pace of what you want. If you just arbitrarily download all these plugins and load them, they're just going to eat up your time and your CPU cycles. Remember, that small little NAS box, it might be just a small box, right? And it's got a couple of hard drives in it, 2 or 4 or whatever. That processor and the memory on board, it's precious. And loading unnecessary monitors onto your system, or also asking a lot of requests for things that just aren't doing anything, is just eating up your CPU time and impacting your NAS's overall performance. So, write it down on paper first. Secondly, make sure that you're bringing in a monitor that you understand. In other words, do you have the technical understanding of what you're bringing in? Now, the cool part about that is if you're honest up front, you say, I'm not sure, Then what you do is you bring in monitors that are more graphical based. Um, GUI interfaces, that's graphical user interfaces, are used both by new people who are learning and the hardcore enterprise people who just need to see everything in one picture. In the middle is what we call CLI telemetry. And that's command line interface. That's the black screen with a lot of text, and it's giving you specifics on one or two aspects. That's the benefit of CLI. CLI is not a great tool when it comes to dealing with many resources, so hence when it gets fairly big we go over to GUI to kind of give us our averages, and then when we have to jump into the weeds we'll use CLI. But for the new user, go graphical. So take some time, look at the monitor plugin tool, get some screenshots. What does it look like? What is it doing? And if it appears to be more text based, and you can understand it, great. But if it's something you just like, I don't understand all these things, or you can't relate to them, that's more important, because obviously if you don't know something, you just go and find the answer. If you can't relate to it, you don't know how to find the answer. Big, small, major detail. Okay, it's tiny, but it really messes you up, because then you can't really use the tool. So go through the monitor plugins to make sure that you're getting what you want. You know, we had the first two topics we talked about. Know what you want, monitoring wise, and know what you can handle when technical level for that tool. The next thing you want to do is you want to focalize your requirements to only the plugins that will meet all of your requirements. What do I mean? Well, let's say you have 4 ideas. You want to see all the telemetry for storage and all the TCU activities for TCP/IP, and so that's basically network monitoring. That's infrastructure. And then you also want to see how your net streaming tool is working, and you also want to see what is your daily sync rates with storage capacity. Well, those are 3 different things unrelated to each other. Infrastructure monitoring is the basic TCP/IP and protocol-based monitoring. The services that are providing you streaming, control, and sharing and usage and user workloads, that's more of a application relational management tool for monitoring. And then the last one was about the actual health and well-being of your continuous sessions, your concurrent session activities for, you know, syncing data between the clients that are using file sync to your NAS. So what ends up happening, and never fails, I find 3 or 6 tools installed for just those 3. And I'm like, okay, you want a tool for infrastructure, so just find the tool for infrastructure, TCP only. That's it. And that will support SNMP down. SNMP is Simple Network Management Protocol. In other words, the protocols we use to get logs and track information. You have a services-based monitoring tool that's required. And then you have a storage and concurrency user monitoring tool. So that would have been it, just 3 tools. That's the correct answer. Many times I see 6. Why? Well, because we make the mistake of looking at the tools we download to use as plugins, and they have other features. That's the key. If you know what you want, only get what you need. That's important, because remember, every time you have extra junk on there doing extra things is where you're stealing CPU and RAM time. So what ends up happening is people will download an infrastructure monitoring tool, but it will have other services that it will do for you, and they take up resource. They take up space, and unless you physically go in and disable them, they're going to try to run. Most of the time is what I find, because that's how they do the sticker shock of the application tool for monitoring. They want to show you how awesome they are, so they everything on your array is being monitored by it. Then they have the second tool for services, and it's probably overlapping with files and shares, or maybe dipping into networking. So here we have a second tool that we wanted to just strictly talk about. Tell me how my services are doing. Are they healthy? And so it ended up bleeding over into other areas. And then the third one, your file shares, your user connectivity models, tracking your activity, making sure that your file syncs are working right. And suddenly it's trying to go over to check the services, and it might even do a TCP ping head or something like that. So there are so many of them out there. You will find the one you're looking for. And keep it condensed, keep it simple, stupid, makes your life easy. You get all the answers you want like that, and you're in good shape. Just because it looks good on the screen doesn't mean it's good for your system. Simple, clean, and concise works the best. Dials are better than bar graphs, and you'll find that alerts aren't as great as you think they are, because suddenly you're getting all types of minor alerts that fill up your email box. So be careful and cautious how you do this. So take the time and understand the full functionality of these limited tools that will cover all your three aspects that you're trying to do. Try your best to only use what you're really using. Everything else can go away because you're not using it. Why do you need three tools to do the same thing? Right? Right. Lastly, one other thing you can do is Synology, Paired, ClearOS, and all these different environments. They'll have some best practice guidelines. And best practices may tell you some additional notes that allow you to optimize how your monitoring will work. Now, there are hundreds of these tools. And the one question when you hit this point is, how on God's earth am I ever going to be able to deal with 100 different tools and 100 different ways to deal with the protocol that I want to work with, or the service, or the functionality? It's easy. I've told in many of my videos in the past, if you learn the protocol, then all the vendor tools must work with the protocol. Master the protocol. It's not hard to navigate through all the different menu versions and screens and displays that vendors create to work with that protocol. TCP/IP is just TCP/IP for version 4. If you know it decently, then every network tool out there for infrastructure is going to be consistently the same. They just put it in different places. That's it. Simplify your life when it comes to this kind of stuff. It will make your life easier as you go forward. Because inevitably, even though you make everything simple in your world, right, you have a lot of them. There's your complexity. So as time goes and you transition from micro boxes to, some old servers you found on eBay that you turn into your next greatest and latest and coolest setup, still keeping it simple, clean is the best solution every single time. Now, the last question that came at me in regards to adaptive models and so on is, what about the Linux operating environment or the Microsoft operating environment and so on? And the answer to that is, if you have a true diehard environment, I would suggest you go Ubuntu or Mint, because it's something you want to walk away from. And use an IP access to manage it anywhere in the house. If it's a native environment and you're all Microsoft, go with Microsoft. The overhead is different. You have a lot more graphical user interface processing. Though if you want to, you can run Microsoft Server in CLI mode, like Linux, and then opt when you want to have the display screen when necessary. So with that being said, the last part of this is when you go out and you want to decide what kind of box I want, what type of monitoring I want to put on it, and so on, take a little time and just research the operating systems. Synology, as of the past year or two ago, you can actually install Synology on x86-based systems, PCs, which is it wasn't intended that way, but some pretty savvy guys and gals out there figured it out, and they figured they could pull the image off of a NAS device and install it on a basic operating system as like you would install Microsoft Office or Linux. Be careful. It is not supported, but it's cool and it's neat, and that really does give you a lot of flexibility, because now you can put a real processor behind it and a pile of RAM behind it, and all the other options you can do with an x86 based model, opposed to a small ARMS or a reduced form factor platform. So just have fun when you're doing it. That's my mission statement there. Well, this is Brad Dyke signing off. I'm going to let you guys go. If you have any questions, please if you like. Send me the questions. We'll see what we can do to help you out. And I'll let you go. Bye-bye.